the mistake of watching an infotainment episode. It's oriented towards men that are more conservative, which is a word. See that conservative? It's just it's if once you tie that to the Overton window, what is conservative today is not what is conservative even a year ago, 10 years ago. And these are psychosociological attacks or misrepresentations of a information class that is compromised. Is that a conspiracy? How could that happen? Well, Wall Street and the people surrounding Wall Street, they did it. What do you have? You have powerful companies that have their shares for sale. And then you got really bad people pumping oil out of the ground, and somehow that money from black goo ended up going into our information sector, and then the management got switched out with a psychosociological terrorist connected with warlike geopolitical entities. That's how it can go down in the history book. But see, that type of thing doesn't involve a military invasion, does it? It's all behind closed doors, and it's all behind a veil of plausible deniability. Well, why are you going with this terroristic type of ideology or imagery or historical take? Well, first off, that they'll say it's not hateful, that it's the real way of doing things. It's a progressive way, right? It's the new way. It's the better way. When you would think it would be the new and better way if you're dealing with someone who is operating in good faith, but if you have someone that's just pretending to do that, but the stuff they produce is manifestly not that, then it does point to the theory I just outlined, which is less than a theory at this point. When it was first kicking off, it was more of a theory. Now, it's pretty much a reality, an undeniable one. So then you start getting into the theory of how to weaken societies in general that, again, present, whether this society believes it or not, a geopolitical counterforce to the aforementioned geopolitical parties that want to do what they want to do. For example, in the world's oceans, they want their submarines going wherever they want their ships going wherever they want, but your ships, they might not let you go where they want to go, type thing. The oceans are just 70% of the world's surface, so that's an area that your rubes and ladies and teenagers and maybe even old people aren't quite aware of, and yet it is strategically essential. So, but of course, they don't want to present themselves as homicidal, genocidal enemies. They want to present themselves as business partners because that's how they gained access in the first place. Resetting a relationship as a business relationship when in fact it's a military relationship, which is to say an exterminationist relationship. As long as you go along with the program and are exterminated, everything's fine. According to plan, let's wait another 30 years. No problem. That's what your enemies are, if they're going along with the business model. That works in more ways than one. Why are their products so damn cheap? Well, they subsidize them, dummy. All the tax dollars that your system hoovered up out of your pocket and sent to who knows where, they put it into maniacal business practices that would undercut your native industries. until they went out of business, and then they had a monopoly. They think they're really smart for doing that, by the way. They think they're like the equivalent of like astrophysics in the economics world, when in fact that's just a, a toxic and shady business practice. It's always been known as such. That's why there were antitrust laws on the books and everything else. But again, we're reliant then on a legal and political class that has just become progressively, stupefyingly incompetent, also by design, politicizing the political process. Whoa, combined with compromised information sectors. Whoa, what else do they got going on in the form of green men activities? Civilian military fusion activities. Oh, that they have a whole lot of things going on you don't know about because they deny that it's going on. And there's so many gullible people that have been prepped ideologically to just not only overlook that process happening, but attack the people that question the manifestly negative changes that are visible to practical people that understand the practical implications of genocide and extermination. But if you're looking at it with rose-colored glasses, oh well, I guess this is the preferred change for the world because these people told me so. Well, then I guess anything that would stop that from happening would be a bad thing, wouldn't it? Could they play such psychosociological games? Well, they have, dummy. They have, they are. Turn on the TV today. So coming back to this info thing. So they're trying to engage what they call conservatives, which is more or less that don't want to go a patently false, wrong, or aggravating way. What they're doing is, first off, underestimating and misrepresenting what they're up against. This is not just some, innocuous thing that have adopted these horrendous ideas en masse. And just if you get into a relationship with them, just realize it's going to be a bad relationship based on that. And this idea that just by being in a relationship with you, you're going to be able to, over time, convince them into being conservative, that is a lie. A lot of these don't do that. They become more radicalized, and they end up pumping out a couple of kids, and then guess what? You go into a hostile court system and get every last financial penalty they can throw at you for the rest of your life. And you're supporting then this harridan and her bad parental practices. That some of the stories out there, if you want to frighten yourself, you should read more of them if you can find places where it's not censored. But women who are divorced or took the kids, there's just, let's say 90% of the stories are horrific. How they treat the kids, what they do, what they let the kids be exposed to, what they tell the kids about their fathers. The whole visitation thing is horrible. It's a losing battle. It's a losing psychosociological battle, and it was deliberately designed that way by the people who designed it. That's what is the real trap. It's a legal lawfare trap. It starts out ideological, it ends up in lawfare. And you think you'd be getting a fair break in the courts. They're always doing propaganda for the courts, like, oh, well, it's not like this guy said. That's a few cases of admittedly, but you get yourself a good lawyer in quotation marks. That doesn't exist. But anyway, good lawyer, you'll get a fair break. Or look, this cousin of my cousin, he got. They're always focusing on some little numbnut exception to a rule that is horrifying. That is breathtakingly negative in its scope, and the probability of it working for you isn't there. It isn't. You have maybe a 1 in 10 chance of coming out of that unscathed, or as uh, let's say less damaging than others. Now, of course, if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, you can even pay billions and millions and still have a couple millions left over, and it's not so bad. So, for the super wealthy, it's just a cost of doing business for them. But you're from a normal place, like middle class or the slave class, your goose is cooked. So, but that's what they were telling these men. Oh, yeah, you just have to convince these. How about this also? How to get into a relationship with a hateful, genocidal, leftist lunatic. How are you supposed to do that again? Wouldn't you have to be in their vicinity or kowtow to them in some way? Who would recommend doing that? Not me. I certainly wouldn't. What you do if you smell that they're contaminated, just write, cross them off the list. They're not relationship material. They're not even qualified to work in a cat house. Just think about that. So what are they qualified for? Basically nothing. They're legal liabilities. Walking legal liabilities that can, even if you're not married to them, accuse you of something. And these courts are also known to go along with them in some way. And there's courts before the courts. There's also university boards. So even before you get to the court, like you can fall into kangaroo courts. So they're psychosociological and legal liability. So you catch wind that they're contaminated. They're not something you want to entertain. You don't want to underestimate the threat, which is what these simps are suggesting. Like, oh, well, this isn't all that serious that these women have been radicalized, which is what they've been done, which is what has been done to them. Just think they've been taken more or less to like a Sino-Soviet indoctrination camp called school. And that's what they have waiting for you. So the suckers out there, they underestimate this stuff. This stuff is not trifling in the least. So you smell it, it's done. It's like, oh, I wanted to eat this burrito, but let me bring it close to the nose. You know what it smells like? It smells like gasoline. So, as much as the ingredients look quite appetizing, when someone pours gasoline over the burrito, it's not advisable to eat it. And yet, these simps, that's what some of them will do. And they get the results of that. They get poisoned. They want to vomit, but they're trying to hold the vomit down type thing. That could be, again, a scene in a film as well. You know, teaching people with metaphors. So yeah, and you'd think, well, that's all too horrible. Well, look, in medieval Pakistan, these or Egypt, you know, in the 5th century, there were exterminationist things going on, for the culture that was there was being replaced by another culture, and there was a part of that, a component of that in the program, and we have that even though they're telling us it's not happening. It's happening. It's happened. The women that have been poisoned this way, they're not going to be useful to anyone and not useful to themselves. And they reject their men, they reject their cultural values, they're torpedoes. So you had 10 women, 50% of them have been destroyed this way psychologically. There's only 50% left. And those 50%, they could go wrong too. They meet up with the wrong people, tell them the wrong things. They're okay. Their family is okay. They go to university, get messed up, or instead of university, they go to a workplace that's messed up, or they go to some type of fake social groups that are messed up. She just wanted to get into the environment. A year later, she's a completely different person. She's an exterminationist in her cultural values. So that of course is why the legal system is it's not preferable to have any type of legally binding contract in these days with the courts the way they are and the cultural attacks the way they are and women the way they are. Not advisable. I mentioned in a last episode some of the worst places in the world, like Canada has adopted extremely aggressive common law that if you're in a committed relationship, in air quotes, they just have to, again, proving that is not difficult. They can hit you with some type of legal penalty. That is significant. It's not a parking ticket. So what is it? It was the weaponization of women. Now, do you need men and women and children and villages and societies to grow and become more numerous? Yes. Do geopolitical entities want that happening in certain places? No. Have they done something about it? Yes, they have. Do we have live in the manifest reality of that? Yes, we do. So it's just the way it is. Medieval Pakistan, it wasn't what it was in ancient times. Very different place, very different people, very different rules, very different results. And it's normal that good people don't get it. Naive people don't get it. Like, why would people want to come and mess things up? Well, they have their reasons that you don't understand, but that doesn't mean they're not there. But one way you know that they're there is that the women are messed up. And messed up women can mess up a lot of things. So the strategy at this point of major contamination, cultural contamination, is not downplaying the threat or going along with it or trying to turn these women into conservatives later, because you might have a 25% chance of success, and that's not worth what it costs if it doesn't. It's not. Because that's what you'll also underestimate. You'll overestimate your ability to change their mind, and you'll underestimate the potential downsides, which are enormous. They are way worse than you think. Way worse. Like, even the horror stories, a lot of people aren't even hearing these horror stories. Just realize you've been A, over-sexualized, and B, women have been poisoned, and C, you don't have a supportive legal system. In fact, you have a predatory one. And that's just the way it is. Now, if you can in some way build up a filtering process that you can, perhaps if it's really important to you to have kids in a time like this, or you find out a way where it can work, maybe off-grid somewhere else, unplugged from the negativity that is everywhere at this time, then good for you. If not, good for you too. I'm sure humanity will live on in some way. Even if 90% of these knuckleheads go down in flames, that 10% that's left over is going to be better, certainly, than they were. But not the degenerate version of humanity that they think it's going to be. It's going to be quite different than what these ideologues have cooked up. It's going to be a return to good times of the past, is what it's going to be. Some different version of it, it's just going to be futuristic. And it's going to work. It's going to look good, the aesthetics are going to be good, the values are going to be good, and the produce of the culture are going to be good. It's just, again, it could be a fraction of the number of what we have today for understandable reasons that are also unfortunate and also warlike reasons. When when the Russians get a bunch of missiles to come in and they're already positioned, they just point them where they want to point them, push the button, shoot it. They don't care where that lands. They don't care who they kill with it. They don't care what they destroy. And people need to start realizing that they've done that to culture. In fact, they did it before they started shooting the missiles off. And it's not just them. So, now you know. One of the most disturbing things about these trends is that I think it was in 2010 that they just completely diverged, men and women. Women took an extreme form of toxic leftism, and men became more conservative. So, what that delineates is that women respond to authoritarianism a lot better, a lot more completely than men do. Men will rebel against, especially genocidal authoritarianism, but women will just submit to whatever is the prevailing orthodoxy. So just imagine if instead of extermination is leftism, they were inculcated with family values instead. They would be the ones not willing to make any type of life-destroying decisions because they were told that those were indeed life-destroying, potentially life-destroying decisions, and so they would be conducting themselves completely differently than misguided trollops like Taylor Swift and the very foreseeable problems a dissolute lifestyle bring with it. It's not like dissolute lifestyles were unknown to the ancients. It's just that they knew that they didn't want that for people of their own family. And if they were altruistic, like many Western civilizations were, they didn't want that for other people either. They wouldn't have had the temerity to go and lecture other people into doing things the wrong way for reasons that they present as right reasons that are transparently false upon closer inspection if you use quality of life metrics instead of some type of misleading ideologically warped data. So it proves the point that many women are not creative thinkers. They submit to authority. We've got a bad authority. They've got bad ideas. That's how it works. Now, if you think you're going to reestablish authority in a relationship, that's also something that men think will work, but women are subjected to social authority. And if they fabricated social mores that are inverted, that's what they adhere to, not the individual man, because they're dependent on the herd for their existence. They feel it on a very visceral level, even if they're told that's not the case. They don't want social disapproval, and these psychosociological terrorists have redefined social approval to be exterminationist and appropriationist and substitutionist and anti-nationalist. So will that have long-term bad consequences? Well, absolutely, for the people who are that hoodwinked. Now, if the goal is to create anarchy and an 80% drop in your demographics, then I guess that's a good idea. If that's not a good idea, then that wouldn't be the right way to go. So that would require reviewing anyone that had to do with sociology in the last 70 years and making some very decisive changes as far as what is considered to be good policy if you want to maintain even a veneer of scientific responsibility or ethics. And again, for people that just can't get out of the human dimension, just imagine we're talking about the culture of rabbits. So I'm a rabbit breeder, and I know how rabbits think, and I've written some books about their little behavioralisms, and I've noticed that that they're in much better shape and increase their numbers if they have these environmentals like fresh water and this type of food. And then I changed from carrots to pellets and did all this different type of stuff. But then I did the reverse of that experiment, how to get rid of rabbits. And then I decided, well, I didn't decide, but somebody read my book and then decided to take the harmful environmentals and repackage that as progressive. That's essentially what their operators did to us, while presenting it as the sensible thing to do. But is that sensible? See, this is the cool thing about human beings, is that you can be sold a bill of goods, but you can also recover from that, especially civilizations. Civilizations are more robust than you might think, especially if you withdraw your consent to engage in self-harming behavior, for example, based on harmful psychosociological frames. So, what to do? Yeah, I would say one practical thing is to unplug from anybody. Develop a better sensitivity for all of these poisons. And if somebody even uses a keyword, just disengage, unplug, avoid. I think that's one of the reasons why all those zombie films came out. They were trying to tell you something. The zombies of today don't look like zombies, but they sort of act like them. They've adopted a self-harming and harming program, social program, personal program. And yeah, civilizations don't always maintain themselves, especially in the face of these types of hybrid attacks where people are deliberately misrepresenting themselves, the data, science itself. So it's really not, it shouldn't be all that surprising to you that asymmetric attacks do have devastating consequences. But you can limit the amount of that devastation by limiting your exposure to the bad actors that have been injected with toxic ideologies and theories and memory wars and manipulations and sleights of hand and all that other stuff. And you could also think of it like again, some type of chemical. It's mustard gas, so there could be 50% casualties. Some cases 70%. But they're not dead. They're still walking around. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong with me. Something's wrong with you. This should be acceptable to you. My ideologue told me so. You're the bad guy for not going along with this bad plan. That's how the zombies of today roll, or as I like to call them, torpedoes, because they have more automatic and explosive qualities to them. Explosively destructive qualities. And that brings us back to women and their role in society. Yeah, women, we're told what to do. They're told what to do in all big societies all around the world, all outside the West. Do this, do that. If it's not somebody telling them what to do directly, it's children. I want the ball. No, you can't have the ball. I want something to eat. Okay, here's something to eat. You ever watch women take care of kids all day? They're being told what to do, more or less. They're taking cues and they're reacting to those cues. You get a bunch of psychosociological terrorists and social framists. They will conform to that. So don't let that happen if you're a civilized society. And be on the outlook for it. Obviously, they don't come in guns a-blazing saying that this is exterminationism. Hey, people, come on, sign up. You all get to die impoverished in all different types of despicable ways. Sign up. No, no, no. They come in with a marketing plan. This is utopia. This is how utopia on earth. This is how futuristic modern societies are built. This is their pitch. They do pitch it. They sell it. So, but the great thing about people selling it, you don't have to buy it. So bounce. You're in a venue that's been captured, bounce. You know someone who's been captured, disassociate. And it seems like you would only be losing if you did that, but you aren't. You're freeing up time for people that haven't been contaminated or contaminated as much. You really are doing yourself a favor, and there's nothing you can do for these people that adopt these bad ideas. There's really nothing you can do. You would have wished that their ancestors would have done something to prevent them from being so misguided, but apparently that wasn't the case. And there is causality between bad ideas and bad occurrences and actions and phenomenons, and it's as simple as that. Now, will at some point things turn around? I think so. I think we could be optimistic. I think right now we're just in the culling phase. And it will have unexpectedly disastrous effects in some areas, but at some point, people are going to snap out of it. Let's not forget the medical establishment believed in bleeding people for many, 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 many years, possibly centuries. And now we know that that is a harmful practice and it's been discontinued. But you go back to 1820, you could have a little guy with bifocals and a suit and a leather bag and been doing it for years, and he wouldn't have, you couldn't have convinced him otherwise, even if 10 of his patients died. He'd be collecting that money too. Have the position. Oh, the doctor's here. What a respectable person, right? So we have a version of that in the socioeconomic and political fields at this time due to historical reasons that are bad. That's it. You can look at it just like that. Why are there traces of radiation near Chernobyl? Well, there's reasons for that too, which involve mismanagement practices, which involve political mismanagement practices, which involve factory mismanagement practices, which involve ethical mismanagement practices. There's just so many. It's just one of those catastrophes you can look at and break down into very many different things, but the human factor is a big part of it. The construction company, how about that? Weren't mixing the concrete right. There were just, if you look into the details, it's breathtaking how shockingly misguided humanity can be on so many different understandable levels. Right up to the overblown concepts of self that these delusional narcissists have that go into politics and usurp power and keep the good people out. How many of those types of clowns and circuses are rolling around countries of this planet at this time? It's not just your country. That's the really cool thing that these telescopic devices have given us. Look into the politics of Burma. There you go. Sit down. Take your time. Of course, there's going to be, 60 to 80% disinformation, but give yourself some time. If you've developed some techniques to be able to sift out disinformation from the get-go, you might just get to the core of the last 100 years pretty quickly. And then once you're done with Burma, because, they changed the damn name of the country. That's how crazy they were, or are. Then you can move on to a place like Argentina, then perhaps Mexico, United States, Canada, all the European countries, China. It's just really there for everyone to figure out for themselves or not. So don't think your country is just uniquely bad. It's not. It's just one version of it. Indian syphilis isn't all that different from the syphilis in Texas or New York City or Los Angeles, San Francisco, wherever these people may roam, or people, these deceived and deceiving people that mislead themselves and others. So yeah, you can be born into an unfortunate time, but that doesn't mean it needs to be definitive for you individually. And it's possible that cultures can go through decades of decline and then decades of recovery. So I hope we've hit rock bottom. But I thought that, 10 years ago. So, and we're just drilling through pure granite right now. I'm surprised the lava hasn't just shot up yet and vaporized us all, but because I'm not tuned into crap temporariness, a lot of it just misses me completely. So the lava just splashes far, far away, misses me completely, and I'm focused on then good things. I got a lot of space, a lot of time unlocked, freed up to contemplate the universe, or how plants grow, or the shadows playing at different times during the day on a wall or somewhere else. It's a lot more rewarding than figuring out all of these pernicious social attacks. And then also think, 1920s. Yeah, 1920s was in Europe was terrible for a lot of people. And then they all got incinerated with carpet bombs. So all the bad ideas that they had during those bad economic and political years ended up in them being fried crispy in most cases. All the buildings, everything blew up. Think about that. Then they went back to family values, right, in the 50s. Like, all right, let's forget of that ever happened and those people ever existed, and let's get back to family values. We're going to have a space age. And that lasted a couple decades until that got wrecked. So where runaway trains end up? Probably not good places. So if you can have some lateral movement, it's probably going to help you long term. But if you're attached to your time, your place, your men and women that have been abstracted into some type of nonsense, you're just holding on to dust. Or dust is sticking to you. That's sort of the other way to look at it. Let yourself walk under a pristine waterfall and just let all that delusion wash itself off. Now, one young lady said, "Yeah, what you say is true. I figure I can see it now." It's so unfortunate. And then, of course, she added a whataboutism. But what about the men? And I said, look, absolutely. What would an enemy do? They look at all different sides and try to aggravate the problem. How do you weaken women? Well, they developed that whole program and put an ism on the back of it and added some isms on top. Then you've got a torpedo, somebody who is built to blow up some good thing wherever they land. Just someone who's constantly making things worse in an automatic, unreflecting, unrepentant way. But you've got the female version of that. Then you got, oh yeah, the men, boys, they're always trying to mess them up. If they can make them just not men, like not what men need to do or are required, have to be responsible, have to have an amazing amount of resilience. I think that's underestimated in this time, how many just mind-blowing difficulties that men have always gone through. But in these times, it might be less of a physical trial, more of a psychological trial. See, we're talking about the realm of cognitive warfare. This is a new form of warfare. If you didn't know about it, this is a new thing. It's the reverse psychologist. Psychologist is trying to help you, right? This one's trying to mess you up. And it's coming from different directions. It's not just that one side. Because some other entity saw you, even if you didn't see it, as a part of a whole. So you turn on your team, you turn on your country, you turn on your family, you turn on your loved ones. Well, that's good for them, isn't it? It's just always simplify, always change the venue, take yourself out of your time. We're now on a wagon train on the Oregon Trail. And we're coming from St. Louis. But the people out there in the bushes, they're coming from a whole different place. The new science suggests that they came from central Siberia. There's a linguistic link, Ket. It's basically Navajo. There was an Asian land bridge. The Bering Sea is very shallow. People walked on over with or without ice, or with both, maybe some kayaks, like the Eskimos have up there. There are people that do know how to survive in northern climes. They herd reindeer and what have you. And there's not a lot of people there because there's not a lot of people with the skills to survive in conditions like that, let alone thrive. But let's also look how skilled the Navajo are, but look how they've, in modern times, just one bad thought in a receptive mind can change their viewpoint to the worst. You turn a optimistic, enthusiastic, cheerful person with one thought, you can turn them into cantankerous grumps, curmudgeons, and naysayers. You let thoughts like that float around women, whoa, you're going to get some bad return on those seeds. And people do. You want to talk about thorn bushes? Just slapping you in the face with whole brambles on the back of the legs, that equivalent psychologically. There ain't no man built for that type of torment. But women wouldn't naturally come to those terrible ideas unless they were introduced to them by peddlers of poison. And the peddlers of poison, let's just say, all right, look, you're saying poison is too much of a word. Let's just say it's crack cocaine. Some people say crack cocaine is not poison. There's people that really like it. There's people that think it's really valuable. People pay a lot of money for it. But it is poison in the sense that it can absolutely wreck your life. It's wrecked lives of all types of accomplished people. Don't look at the end result. The man lying on the street, butt naked except for a garbage bag, half out the dumpster. That's just the end result. He started out way different until somebody pitched him. And that was just that one time. And that's what the causality led to. Ideas are dangerous. And not in a good way. Bad ideas are terrible. They should be terrifying to you. Believe something is wrong? That's terrifying. That should be terrifying to you. It is terrifying. Wars get started this way on purpose, based on the spread of bad ideas by bad people that causes a fight, that leads to the horrible deaths of countless numbers of people whose entire lives have been shattered. You can't go to work when artillery's raining down on you. You thought your Monday was difficult. Hey, guess what? The cruise missile took out the bridge you needed to cross to get to work. I guess that ain't getting fixed because you're not a bridge builder. You might be a sophisticated, you might be a cardiologist. That patient ain't making it thanks to that. And there's nothing you can do about it except recognize the shock and awe of out of controlness. But let's get back to crack, shall we? As an example, don't ever pick that stuff up. Right? That's what I'm telling you right now. Don't ever even think it's just going to be like this or that. Just don't do it. See how I'm giving you the real story? What I just told you right now, if you will believe me, will save you from that fate. Period. And yet people are like, look, man, I got 5, what am I doing here? I should be doing something more important than to listen to this fool tell me something that I know already, but I can handle it. I'm sure I can. You see how the little devil of rationalization can get started? Just like that. One little weakness. And so let's return to the Navajo. Yeah, look, they're a very accomplished people in their field of survival. But it requires a lot of peace and quiet. And not bad ideas. But a bad idea will kill them, cripple them in some way. It will debilitate them. It debilitates them because they're receptive to ideas. And yet, if they were given the skills to learn how to protect their minds, what a wonderful skill that is. Some people call that religion. Why not think of it as habitualized hygiene? Dropping thoughts, reviewing thoughts, classifying thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, dropping bad thoughts. Not needing good thoughts, but when a good thought comes, you develop that instead. You might develop it thinking it's a good thought, then you notice it's a bad thought, then you drop it, and then you notice the delusional factor that led you to believe it was the right thought, you see? And you sort it out that way, step by step, if you've been exposed. But of course, your environment is important. If you're being exposed on a regular basis to aggravating things, it really doesn't matter how tough you are. You just develop a thick skin for bad things, which is not a good thing. It makes it easier to associate with bad things, which is what bad people would have for you. But of course you can attribute it directly to these people, but look at these people that sell this stuff. For them, it could be makeup. It could be marbles as far as they're concerned. They're just buying low, selling high. That's it. It's a package. It's an Amazon package. They don't even look inside. They don't touch stuff. So that's a part of the information distribution system. That's the way you need to see them. Spread information, not looking at what's in the package. Bad ideas are deadly. In a lot of cases, it's been said before, but getting a bad idea is worse than getting a bullet. Bullet wounds, they are bad, they're pretty horrifying, but everybody can see it, and everybody can understand it on an intuitive level, and there's a lot of physicality involved. The people can track metrics and you can see it. Look, it looked like this yesterday, it looks like this today. Oh, 2 years later, there's just a little scar, a little scratch. But psychological bullets, they're claimed not to exist. If you're injured in one of those accidents, nobody can see it, and not even yourself, a lot of times. You get yourself into a bad frame of mind. How did that happen? If you got into it, there must have been something compelling to it, and so you justify it. When in fact, that's just, you could look at it a different way. You could look at it in the life-affirming way. This was an experience, I got through it, I'm doing good, I'm free. I'm free of it, and now I have the skill to free myself from anything that is aggravating me. And I don't have to feel like I'm missing out on something if I miss aggravating things. Reducing your footprint, how about this? How are the Navajo living, or how did they live? They had teepees. They didn't need much, but they did have skills. Now, a lot of people say, oh look, they look like savages. They had an amazing style. All of that stuff they had on, they made themselves, or someone of their tribe. That's if you look at it, the level of craft, it's exceptional. The different bones, the different feathers, the leather work, it's exceptional. Think of yourself just going out camping. You're going to be able to make what they made. How about their flint tomahawks? Sharper than a razor and extremely hard. And yet, even if it took a hit on stone or something, it didn't completely shatter. Had almost like a flexible blade to it. All of that flint fletching is super difficult to get right. Amazing amount of skill. Then to find the right material. Some of the scientists, archaeologists believe that they sometimes wandered thousands of miles to find the suitable materials for their tools, and that it was considered very valuable. And that it does differ from place to place. It's a geological phenomenon. Also, their flint knives, just amazing. To this day, they're still in perfect condition, some of them. And then why is it people keep finding arrowheads? If that was made of steel, it would have just been dust. So, and we're talking about pre-industrial age. And people had a lot more significance in their lives, and that's okay. That's how we're built. That's what we were born for. And not the petty modern day of humdrum after humdrum after humdrum, into dumb drum, into doldrums, into limited spaces. And yet we could go willingly into limiting spaces if we can gain metaphysically, spiritually. Yes, look at that. We have a whole universe open to us if we can just get there on the basis of being able to reduce our aggravation enough that we can be content with nothing. Now someone would say, oh, this sounds terrible. But think of a car that doesn't need gas but can drive perfectly well and safe without gas, are you in a better position or in a more impoverished position? You see, the person will say, oh, well, he won't have the money to pay for gas then. Well, if he doesn't need gas, doesn't need the money to pay for the gas, he's not going anywhere. He's perfectly okay, perfectly content with 2 minutes left to live. At the knife's edge of satisfaction. No regrets, no past, no worries, no future. So returning your mind to the breath, learning how to do that, it's like flexing your muscles. And when a bad thought comes, you just do a 180, just like swatting a fly without thinking about it. But you don't hit the fly, you don't smash it into the wall and get the guts everywhere. You don't know where that fly's been flying. Just a gentle swat, and possibly your hand doesn't even touch the fly. The wind itself just blows it away, and it gently, unlike these horse flies, although some of those can fly in from time to time, many of them are just quite lazy and slow, and if you're still alive, they'll find something else that is more to their taste. And the room, they fly out of your net, out of the room, through the walls, no longer there. But if you think all those horseflies and all those other things are you, then you'll just let them walk all over you, irritate you endlessly, straight into madness. So when people say that these things are skills, like spiritual skills, you should, if you think that that's a trivial thing, then you really have been misinformed. Those are the most valuable things. It doesn't matter if it is quantified. It's its own unquestionable good. So yeah, for the men, what can they do? Well, same thing. Disengage from aggravating things, and strength is good, but don't let strength be redefined into something that is foolish or misguided. Too much strength is not good. Just think of all that strength that went into turning a bolt that then shattered, and now where are you? With all that show of strength, it was the wrong application of it, the wrong measure of it, the wrong amount of it. Ergo, power can be as unskillful as weakness. Oh, I walked back. I didn't confront the bully. I walked back. I dodged him instead. I guess that's cowardly, or is that just a perfect accomplishment of a difficult situation? Not one atom disturbed one of your own atoms physically, and spiritually, nothing as well. How preferable is that than to prove one's strength, to show someone what for? And yet, there are always levels of skillfulness and unskillfulness. This realm will test every principle. it's okay to not be skillful all the time. That's part of the realization process, is that we're really not as skillful as we think. And that's why we make so many grievous errors, mistakes, misperceptions, angerings, dramas, accusations, blaming. That's what people do. You can see it. But how do you not do it yourself? It seems so impossible at times, but there must be a way. There is a way. Have faith that there is a way, and put it into practice. And no, it is not, I'm reading the book, I'm listening to the words, I'm looking to the finger pointing to the moon. No, you are your own universe, you're your own responsibility, you're your own piece of the tapestry. Back to the metaphor of politics as a dinner party, as in the last lecture, I mentioned the off-putting parties, the people misbehaving. You see how you can over-focus on those things, but guess who else is there? Turn around. There's some marvelously, brilliantly talented, accomplished people out there in the form of nations. They were waiting their whole life just to make your acquaintance because you have the highest values and they know it. That you are the real deal. What a great friend to have. You want to talk about having good friends, not just all these pains in the butts that I've described. See, I'm coming out of the swamp and the jungle and the junkyard and the war zone. But when I talk like that, people think automatically, this man is a garbage man. He's talking about, they don't even have any concept or clue how degraded things have become out there. Which, on the other hand, why should they? If people start off right, they stay right. In a lot of cases, they don't know nothing about any weird problems. And if they don't need to know, why talk about it? So then you're in a different type of polite company where you can talk about the brilliant things. Like the new United Kingdom, or Scandinavia, or Russia, for example. The new Russia, after this old Russia goes away. Like all the great things one can finally start doing that have been waiting so long to happen. Just an explosion of creativity. Or perhaps that's over-exaggerating a little bit. Just like at the dinner party, one should remain reserved. What is it that one desires? What if the other side doesn't have it? What if they just appear to have it? What if it's just you again? Seeing what you want to see. A fantasy. Not the reality. On the other hand, that's it. You mingle. So you say hello, and if it's a very intense, dramatic person, it might be super normal, but not the end-all, be-all of existence in this universe. You can say, well, it was very nice meeting you, and now it's on to the next waiting guest. Oh, hello. What brings you here? Traveler. Oh, you're coming from the frontier, are you? How is it out there in the boulders? What type of tobacco are they smoking out there? So, and you can just go on and on through the world. You don't have to stick with the misbehaving parties. They're there if you want to observe what they're doing, but if you don't need to observe it, perhaps it's not worth looking into. But on the other hand, from time to time to just take a look is probably not a bad idea. And certainly what footholds they might have in your own country, because if they do, they should be probably removed, unless they shouldn't. If we're talking about hostile parties, what footprint do they have, and why is that considered a good thing by so-called competent people? But that doesn't mean that so-called competent people won't want to act, even though they should, where they can, with what they have. And the more they have, the more responsible they are. You let things like this continue, you're just not a good manager. That's it. It's the culture atrophies. People get poorer. Situations get worse. Less good things happen, more bad things happen. That's bad management. That's the abstraction. No personality is involved. I don't need to know who thought it was a good idea to chain the ketchup bottles to the trash cans. I don't need to know who thought that up. It's just not an idea that's good. It's not a good design. It's not a good solution to a not so complex problem. And it shows. And it can happen, it does happen, it's a part of life. There's good cultures, there's bad cultures, then there's good cultures again. Unfortunately, good culture is pretty rare. But it doesn't have to be. It can be, to a certain extent, it can be multiplied. Certainly if it's not oppressed in places like Belarus. If we didn't have these places, we would be a lot further, and people would have better lives. So whoever greedy people are involved, just cut them a deal, cut them a check somehow. How much money do you want? You want to live in peace? Fine, here, go there. Part ways with bad managers. Give them golden parachutes, or even silk ones, if you're feeling generous. No hard feelings, but for those that won't go, I think they should be encouraged to go, because there's so many other things that could be going on instead of, for example, oil spills because of faulty equipment that was used for craven purposes. That's just one example, but there's so many more. Why isn't there more cultural exchange going on a high levels amongst common peoples? And why is there exchange going on with hostile parties that don't benefit us at all, in fact cause immense harm? So this is another thing about politics, is you can wake up on Monday, everything's fine. You wake up next Monday, everything's on fire. You wake up next Monday, everything's fine. The Monday after that, everything's on fire. It's normal. Politics is the profession of solving problems or coming up with problem-solving proposals. That's what it is. You strip it down from these puffed up dung ball personality cults You extract them from the process, and that's what it is problem solving with problem solvers that have the right principles, the right values. They're the ones that create the right visions. They're the ones who should be your politicians. It's like a truck that doesn't deliver, they don't deliver. Get a new truck, get a new truck driver, get a new address where he needs, where the delivery should go. Do all that, why not? When it works, great. When it's not working, change it out as dispassionately as you would change out a burger crew that doesn't know how to barbecue. Just, it's not good enough in this day and age. Maybe 30 years ago, but now we've got barbecue, so you need to know how to barbecue type thing. Because on our side, life is good. What's happening on their side, we don't know. It's not our problem. If it's not our business, we don't need to know about it. Don't need to know. We have enough to know. And even more not to know. But if it does become a problem, if it becomes an issue because people are screaming like their hair is on fire, what? Look at this. They blew up this. They took over that. They splashed all these hideous commercials everywhere. They destroyed the film industry. And, it could be anything. They're barricaded in the universities. They've chained themselves to the turnpike. Every day it's a new thing, isn't it? Now you can solve the immediate problem, or you can take a more strategic outlook. Solve things more strategically. That's sort of what politics should be too. Strategic problem solving. Not just the day-to-day. If you're solving people's problems day-to-day, you need to find new people. Or come up with a new design. And you need to have the flexibility to do that. You get these bureaucracies and unions and whatnot. Not that I'm against the unions, but the unions know what I'm talking about. That you get these structures. They're not helping in the sense, if they're inefficient, they're not helping people as well as they could. That's it. You want to look at it dispassionately. That's what the organization should do. So you got all this different set of interests giving people ghost jobs and what have you on the public budget. That's not gonna help people out long term. Even if you'll make every rationalization you can until you go to your grave that it is worth it to you and yours. It's not. So walk away, take a check, right? Take a break, give us all a break of that crappy culture, and let's get back to doing things the right way before even more lives will be lost. So as far as their first strike and their subsequent strikes go, the first was a cultural strike, and that provided cover for them to get their legal operatives into positions of policy making. Then they came up with these policies out of their psych wards and military institutes, and then they implemented the policy to the hands and feet of the state, the apparatus itself. So here, beat cop, you used to do this, now you do this instead. What? That makes no sense. Well, this is what the lawmaker said, buddy. That's who you work for, the public. So this happened in the United States, all through Europe in the last 30 years. And it's had tremendously negative sociological, psychological, psychosociological, economic effects. So, and they're there. They're now also in government positions, and they're the decision makers that don't make good decisions or timely ones. And but they do collect a paycheck, and they don't feel themselves to be directly responsible for the catastrophes that they cause. But even if they cause them, because they are, you can't write up law like this unless you're on the other side. Because they are on the other side, they can comfortably do that while misleading you that they're your countrymen and women that really care so much more about the issues. That's why they do it this way. That people willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, because that's pretty deep on the conspiracy scale. I mean, that's how malevolent is that? Coming up with like laws and disabling security. Oh, guys, yeah, the port here, don't worry about that. There's some mall cops taking care of it. Commissioner says so. Or no, the lawmaker said that across the land, this operation, they got the port contract. Don't worry about it. Something like that. You think, how safe do you think your country is? So why would they not stoop to that level when they obviously had? So you got legacy operators at this point. Like, this is already decades into these types of programs. Some of them have just had an unbelievable ride because nobody's booted them off the booty train just yet, despite the data. So that's something they'll do too. They'll watch the data. Like, here's your side going down, down, down. They watch that like a stock portfolio because they're selling short, you see. You got a bunch of those there too. So we're talking hundreds, thousands. It really depends on your country, but as things get worse, they should become more visible. And of course, their careers, you can take whatever they did and attribute it to the other side, because that's what they do too. I wonder what their wall looks like on the other side. All the little trophies they have on their imaginary desk over there, ready to be received by rocket man to award them for their great accomplishments over the years, or not so great accomplishments as it looks like from the other side, but they're still kicking. By golly, they have seniority, so nobody telling them nothing. Isn't that an organizational hack right there? Seniority. Well, let's just make sure the stupidest of them get seniority, and then the brilliant ones kicked out for infractions. Wink, elbow. So classes, yeah, American classics, or American Thatcherites and classics. That's the far right of the Republican Party. Just pure radioactive sludge. But you can see them because they're so phony. It's like, just place the guy in a normal setting. What does this dude look like? What is he talking about? They all have this like glassy stare to them. They're probably imbibing in substances, I would venture to guess. Because you really need some extra punch to be that impudent. But okay, they're there. You look to the Democratic side, their whole, probably, I would say 80% cored out with Che Guevara types that are keeping it on the low. So what does that make this position? It's bipartisan, it's centrist. It's got both people that still give a damn about the country and their people. And the people on the fringes, they're just going to be the smoke show and mirrors. that the geopolitical players push buttons on, and they come out with their new little drama, their new little dramas and misleadings and contretemps and exposures and finger pointings and blamings and doomerisms and whatever else they decide to come up with. Some isms, they're going to have some isms thrown in there. And if they think they can keep the electorate that bedazzled and that frictionalized, factionalized, that nothing will get done, and it probably won't, or only a fraction of it. And over time, they're going to be the ones with the advantages and the stockpiles and the organization, and you're just going to have a hot mess of nothing. So, yeah, sometimes the prognosis isn't so, I mean, I wouldn't call that a prognosis. What is that? That is a investigation? No, a physical. Yeah, that's your physical. You got lice, you got bed bugs, you got a rash, you got acne, you got stuff stuck to your buttocks. You got stuff squished in your face. And got a couple of other things too. You got a screw missing here and there. But other than that, yeah, sure. You get rid of that, you're gonna have a lot better decisions being made by people that are doing it for the right reasons and not because they're Thatcherites. Let's not forget, on the other side of the pond, that they're the Tory equivalent, yeah, so think of them that way. Democrats, the Labor Party equivalent. Pretty similar, isn't it? Isn't it scary? Commonwealth nations all got wrecked like that. Doesn't it look like AstroTurf? Sort of smells like it. You know that plastic? A lot of these operators also cause toxic environments, which is really their preoccupation, because it is their occupation, is they misrepresent and consistently poison frame truth tellers, patriots, people who have a national interest and a national investment that is intuitive and indisputable. Those are the questionable people. Those are the people with ulterior motives. That's what they want to teach young kids. And they teach them to identify them and to act that way in a utterly hateful and inappropriate way towards people that they've been misinformed about. And they also have a variety of new high-tech ways of doing that, like how about just copying and pasting malicious things and saying this is what they said. That's why what this guy says, whatever he says, just discount it, because you've been emotionalized with misinformation. The messenger is indisputably inhumane and atrocious and monstrous. That's what they do. So they got a white smoke machine and a black smoke machine. And they usually got both going at the same time. They don't like somebody, that's probably a reason that they're okay. But they also misdirect that as well. They have, if the person is a dramatic no one that nobody should know anyway, why are they putting the focus on them? Why are they running around circles with these objectionable people that have really substandard opinions about life, that also have AstroTurf implications to them? So any of that jazz, nope, shouldn't have it in a public forum that is free and ascending. There should be differences of opinion, different takes on things, but not any of the methods that I just described. And if you can't tell the difference, you don't belong in the forum. you probably belong in a place where you're exposed to much less ideas and are much less attacked or misdirected. You really should go away, because it could be your program is not up to date. You haven't gotten the update. You're still working, still running viruses. You're running Windows, right? At 96 or something. At 52, 72. Look, a lot of these old suckers, and of them there are human torpedoes, I'm sorry, it's sad to say, they got old programs. Just think of it like an old circuit board, like in a Darlec. It's still popping off, it still works. You got printers out there, they're still working, even though they're busted up and look junky as hell. So, but the new versions, like I said, teaching the young to absolutely hate their own heroes, the heroic elements within their society, including those who will speak up and tell the truth, despite not getting 1 red cent for it, getting a whole slop bucket thrown in one's face from foot to head, years on end. And they do it, they've done it, they're doing it. They feel good about doing it. They feel like they're doing the right thing too. That's the gas inside the torpedo. You know those little bubbles that come out the back with the propeller? That stinky gas, that's what they're running off of. Law is a form of doctrine for social organization. Why is crime fighting an essential part of government? Because if you don't fight it, it takes over. And why is that bad? See, the criminals think that's just a rule that they should ignore. But it's bad because it allows for the further undermining of the entire country. Because it's then not organized in a responsible, sustainable way. And if the concept of government's too complicated for you, think of it as a factory. All the moving parts. You got to pay the electricity bill. You got to pay the workers. You got to be doing something that is on point, that is makes sense. This person has to attach to this thing, to that thing, at this point in the process, and then it goes on down the line. Type of social organization, all of those things need to work. In all of the fields for it to work. If there's one field that's being neglected, yeah, we got this great security here, sir. Oh, really? Show me. Let's drive around the Jeep. Okay, sir. Gets in, drive down. It's like a straight line. There's fence. Then the fence stops. Keep driving. Captain, why don't you bring this vehicle to a stop? Turn the engine off. Oh, yes, sir. Look to the left. Why isn't there a fence there? Well, sir, we ran out of fences, sir. That's your perimeter. Those are your people. Everything's secure. That's what they said until you got out there on the Jeep. That's what they call secure. So the equivalent of that in the military is what this relationship between police and governance has been on the civilian side. It's just been completely inept. So it didn't keep up with crime. It was overrun. Because the people it was assuming would be on the lookout for it actually did it in. because they thought that they could just do a breach of doctrine like that. Say, oh, well, this is the doctrine of the country that's now prosperous and free because of this doctrine. We're going to make an exception for ourselves because it's better for us, and we're going to keep it all under control, and we're going to have all the benefits of impunity and none of the oversight from those that know better as far as doctrine goes, type people. It's going to be okay for me, maybe my kids, and who cares about the rest type nihilistic, self-absorbed, vain, and self-rationalizing personalities. Well, what you're doing there is that you're operating against the doctrine of a sound governing body. So just like that fence, that was open, then all of a sudden, something bad starts happening, and then other people start looking. Of course, a lot of people get killed. There's a lot of mayhem. But it just might be possible to figure out what happened, plus minus a few things, such as the names of the people that did it. But you can sort of know that they were there. Incompetence makes itself known. Now, as terrifying as that description is, and it is terrifying, the marvelous thing is that it can work marvelously well. And when it does, you get marvelous and brilliant results. And it's not as complicated as they'd like to make you think. Oh, this isn't criminal, this is just illicit. Well, you don't have to make distinctions like that. People don't do that in the military, do they? Do they do that in like a military war? Well, their state says we should do this, so obviously we should do this. Because that's the only right way. When you know, if you don't do this, then they're going to be coming through in the middle of the night type situation. What are you going to do? You're going to wait for the general to show up and tell you what you need to do? Because there are people like that. They're just like, hey, I'm waiting here smoking, shooting the breeze, got my little uniform on. I show up here every day to work, everything's nice and shiny, just doing what I'm told, waiting to be told to do something. It's this planet called Earth. And it is a human condition, it's a human failing, because we can't be doing everything 100% all the time, but in certain cases, like crime fighting, you should be above average in shutting down crime before it gets out of control. And essentially it gets out of control when there's enough money that they accumulate that they can start influencing other things that spreads the corruption. They get wealthier, but it's a criminal type of wealth, which means it's taking more than it's potentially bringing back. That's why you got all these rotted out cities in Italy. It would have been otherwise a paradise if it wasn't for some greedy people that got a leg up in a racket or two and wrecked it for everyone else. 280 million cost, 50 million profit for them. That's the type of economics that crime creates. For how long? So it's not overly complicated. It's really simple. And if you know what to look for, you can clean it out. And just starting over new institutions is probably not the worst idea, especially as far as policing goes, especially in high crime areas. That's your indicator light. Like there's a gas tank, that's your empty light blinking, doot, 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 doot. got high crime here, but a police force, so, and a legislative body that's psychosocially misguided. That's the other warning lights. That's like your motor light, right? Your oil light flashing. You need to bring that into the service center. Bring that into the shop. Drive that car straight to the mechanic, because you need a bunch of different things. You might have to just get rid of some stuff and have it replaced. And that is terrifying. Have you ever had those lights go on? You're in the middle of nowhere. It's terrifying. That's potentially life-threatening. It's 120 degrees in the middle of the desert. The sun is shining, it's noon. Just waves. Can't even see the ground, things are just moving like that. Those engine lights come on in Death Valley. But if you're close to competent people, it's not as terrifying or potentially life-ending as that. You should really do a little preventative maintenance before it gets to that point. But if it does get to that point, well, then that's the point in which you should take appropriate action.